Hello?
Oh, hi, Daniel. How you getting on in your motor driving?
Oh yeah, Mum. Still at Red Bull. Going for another world title.
Oh, that's great, Daniel. Still keeping that smile on your face?
Always smiling, Mum. I like to keep the Daniel's access to leave your McLaren race suit at the door on the way out. Oh, mate, shut the fuck.
Daniel? Daniel? Oh, look at Spa this weekend.
Welcome to the Late Night Race Review.
Welcome back, everyone. The summer break is over. Dust that beach sand out of your unholiest of holies. It's episode 20 of the Late Night Race Review. I'm Dave Jericho, and we're a man down this week, so holding down the fort with me is Owen Scott. Thank you for making it, Owen. Otherwise, it would have been just me on my own. Before we launch into this week's episode, though, we can't start without thanking the listeners of the cast. So thanks, everybody, and keep those follows and subscribes coming if you haven't already. All right, let's not hang about and see what happens with this train wreck this evening. Let's start off with a positive note.
Yeah.
All right, we had initially planned to start off this podcast. We were going to have a chat about Spa and Ferrari and a bit of a deep dive we were going to do into Ferrari. But then the news broke about DanielRicciardo, sort of the worst kept secret in Formula One. He's after leaving, or he will be leaving McLaren at the end of this season. So, I mean, this comes as well off the back of news that Haas have been in contact with him for a drive in 2023. And of course, the Alpine seat is open as well. So what are you making of this, Scotty? Do you think it's come at the right time? Right move for McLaren? Right move for Ricciardo?
It's definitely the right move from McLaren. If you look at his results over the last year, he was a bit more positive, but still wasn't what you were expecting, and I don't think what he was expecting from his move to McLaren. Coming from Renault, we all thought that teaming up with Lando, he was going to kick on, and we were going to get possibly a few more race wins. I don't think we were ever going to get a world title out of him, but it's time now. It's a sad ending for Danny and McLaren.
It is, and I see a lot of social media comments making sort of saying good riddance. McLaren treated him poorly, gave him a terrible car. I mean, Lando's come out now and said, hang on, the car is sort of bad for both of us. It doesn't suit either of us. It didn't favor one driver or the other. So I think people need to I know there's a lot of, fanatics out there for one driver or another. So, but I think everyone needs to, cool the jets. It's a business at the end of the day. It's a results business, and the results ain't coming. Yeah. But look, I guess this means then, the news can only mean that Alpine have sort of reached some sort of agreement with Piastri for him to go to McLaren, or perhaps Alpine's legal stance with Piastri wasn't as strong as they were boasting about, which I kind of hope is the case.
Yeah.
But what way do you see this playing out in the transfer market? I mean, can you see Ricciardo going to Haas, maybe Schumacher going to Alpine, Piastri to McLaren? What are you thinking? Or is Hulkenberg in the hunt even?
No, I think the way you're after explaining it there is pretty on the money for me as well. The Mick to Alpine thing looks as if it's not a shoe in, but it looks as if it's going that way. The Piastri thing to McLaren, like that again, worst kept secret. It's going to happen.
Exactly.
And then the inevitable result of that would be Daniel to either Haas or Williams again, which is sad, but.
There's the AlphaTauri seat open as well. If Tsunoda doesn't get a renewal of his contract, I don't know what the situation is there. I haven't heard any rumors about that.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, I didn't think there was going to be any chance of Daniel going to Haas either until I saw the news saying that they've approached him about a drive for 2023. And then obviously comes off the back of sort of last month, whatever, Mick leaving the Ferrari Driver Academy.
Yep.
So that he's an open, he's a sort of a free agent when it comes to negotiating contracts with other teams. So it's going to get interesting. But poor old Daniel.
The more and more you look at the Daniel to Haas thing, I've been thinking about it throughout the day since the news broke, and I think it actually does make a little bit more sense. They're looking to jump into that mid-table crowd. They have a somewhat competitive car,
Yeah.
and Daniel he's proven. Obviously, he's fallen off, but there's always that. He is a great driver. It just has to find it has to click for him, and it could click at Haas, and it could be competitive. I think that's a decent shout there.
I think it is a good shout, and I think, like you say, it's not a bad team to be going with. It's better than being stuck down in a Williams.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you're sort of hitting retirement village at that stage. Unfortunately, you're either a rookie coming in earning your stripes, or you're a veteran on his way out. That's the only reason you're down that end of the grid. Yeah. And unfortunately, Daniel seems to be rolling his way back that way. And if he can get into Haas, or obviously Alpine as well is going to be a good one, but if he gets into Haas, like I say, they're going to have a competitive car. But well, look, let's hope that doesn't sort of deter him for the rest of the season. And he's got to be putting in some good performances to put himself in the shop window, I guess. So what better place to do it than at Spa in Belgium? Yes. I mean, we're approaching race weekend, which is unusual for us now to be doing this on a Wednesday, but here we are. Approaching race weekend. I mean, this has got to be probably my one. It's got to be in the top 5, even top 3 tracks for me on the F1 calendar. It is absolutely amazing. Yeah. It's after having a little bit of a facelift, about 80 million euros worth of a facelift. We've seen, I think they've added in the gravel traps. They've reprofiled runoff areas at Eau Rouge. A bit noticeable. I mean, more so I think they've added that grip tape down as well that you see in France. Yeah. And then they've added the grandstand as well at Eau Rouge as well, which will be probably about 6,000 euros per seat to sit there, I would imagine, if F1 is anything to go by. Yeah. But K-Mag was saying that he said it's going to throw up some new challenges for the drivers racing this year, and Max is saying that he loves the old school feel as well of the upgrades that have come at Spa. But sort of when you hear the positive comments coming from drivers and the upgrades, or about the upgrades, and it all kind of comes under the shadow of it being possibly axed in 2023, 2024. So I mean, like at this rate now, surely it's got to be, with the feedback from the teams, with the feedback from the fans, they've got to find a home for it on the calendar permanently, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't. It doesn't make sense to get rid of this track. Eau Rouge, and is it Radion that's the corner just before that?
Radion, yeah, exactly. That's another one they've updated as well. I think they've adjusted the barriers and the gravel trap as well.
Yeah, they're just 2 beautiful turns, and we've seen so much go on at these turns that has given to F1 history. You can't get rid of it. Like it's not a Monaco where we're sitting for a race bored to tears. There's action here at this track.
100%
every year.
100%.
So it doesn't make sense if it's potentially being axed. No,
I put it to anybody to tell me a better sequence of corners in Formula One than Eau Rouge. Now, Maggots and Beckett's in Silverstone is definitely a close second, but Eau Rouge, and I mean, not just for the drivers, I'm sure they love it. I'm assuming that's an absolute belter of a sequence of corners to go up that hill. Yeah, but for the TV coverage as well, watching it at home, it looks fantastic. Even so, But look, anyway, it's still on the calendar. It's there for this year. We're there again, and we're looking at another dose of rain.
Yay!
Possibly just for qualifying, though. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to be on race day. But what will we see? We see some upsets here. Will we see the wet weather masters, the likes of Alonso or something like that, giving us some surprises?
Yeah, I'm hoping for. Obviously, I'm a Lando fanboy, but I'm looking for Lando to climb some places this weekend. Last time out, he wasn't so fortunate.
He's ended up in the wet though.
He ended up in the wall here this time. Was this last year?
He did, yeah. He pushed it a little bit too hard, but he was going good up until that point.
It was heroic, and I love watching Lando in the rain. So I'm really hoping for good things there. As you say, Alonso,
when he's driving a car, you just like watching him in the rain.
No, just like watching him in the rain. Wet Alonso is everything.
Yeah.
And George Russell. I see big things from George Russell this weekend. I like a wet Russell.
A wet Russell with a shirtless wet Russell.
Any excuse, George.
Yeah.
Yeah. So big things from the wet weather masters, I think, and it just depends what way Sunday goes weather-wise as to whether that will actually be an upset at the end of the weekend or not. But
it'd be nice to see a mixed-up grid though for the Sunday. Like qualifying. A rainy qualifying. I mean, look, it adds to the excitement, but if it gives us a shuffled grid on the Sunday where you see sort of guys who would be more potentially back markers, sort of more in the mid range of the pack, or maybe even closer to the front, and it's holding up the faster, it'll add a lot more excitement, especially in the opening laps.
Yeah.
But who do you think though, like on this circuit, I mean, and keep in mind now, the likes of Ferrari and Mercedes are bringing not new power units, but they're bringing upgrades to their power units this weekend. Ferrari definitely, actually, sorry, but Mercedes is, that's just a rumbling I've heard. There's been a couple of news stories about Mercedes also bringing power unit upgrades, but unconfirmed, unreliable sources. But who do you think this circuit's going to benefit? Like, do you think this is going to be Red Bull speed? Now, keeping in mind, obviously, Ferrari are bringing in upgrades to the power unit. And Ferrari, obviously, are better on the twisty stuff. So, I don't know. And Mercedes as well, good on the twisty stuff as well. So, I don't know. Who are you thinking it's going to favour? Who do you see coming out on top in this?
Yeah. I want to say Ferrari, Dave. I want to. But you know what happens when you back Ferrari.
Yeah, you cry and drop your pizza on the floor.
they go full Ferrari on you.
Yeah.
It would suggest that it's going to be Ferrari on top this weekend, but it's so hard to back them, as I said, so hard. So as you said, Mercedes are another one who could come out on top. It does, the track pushes it in their favor too. So we could see that they've had an upturn in results in recent races. We could see something from them maybe. I'm going to say it. I'll just say it. Ferrari. I'm going to say Ferrari.
So you think? All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Ferrari. I mean, we did this. Just let everybody know, this podcast was actually supposed to be a deep dive into Ferrari, but it has gone through about 3 version changes and a man down in that time period. This has turned into a train wreck in about 3 days. But let's do a little bit of a dive into Ferrari on this though. So you reckon that you're going to put your chips behind Ferrari for a win? So are we saying let's like the problems that Ferrari have had for the first half of this season? Do you think this is issues that? So actually, let's take it back a little bit further again. Actually, so roughly Ferrari have thrown away between 120 to 140 points for one reason or another. That could be down to driver error, team error, strategy. It could, multitude of things. But as Ferrari as a team, they've thrown away that. 32 of those points has arguably come from Charles Leclerc, just driver error. So that's fine. So that's still leaving the guts of 100 odd points on the table. And Leclerc now sitting 80 points behind Verstappen, and Ferrari in the constructors are 97 points off Red Bull. So that's where things sit at the moment. So again, where do we go from here? So are we saying, have Ferrari resolved some of these issues that they've had at the start? I mean, I know reliability, that there's only so much you can do with that at this time of the year because development's been done. There's only so much that you can do with that. So the issues that they can resolve is how they're working together as a team. And that comes from, it comes from obviously the strategy. It comes from team orders. It comes from listening to their drivers. And I think there are things that they can fix that will maybe make things a little bit more reliable, a little bit more harmony within the team to give them a better outlook going forward for the last 9 races.
Yep.
So would you see that Ferrari have maybe resolved those issues over the summer break? Do you think they've had a sit down, a regroup, and said, these are our problems, we've identified them, let's work on this now going forward? Or do you think they just don't think, they're just oblivious, they think there is no issue and they're cracking on? Because I know what I think has happened.
I want to say that you would expect a Formula One team in crisis to sit down over the summer break and go, these are our problems. Yeah. This is what we need to do. Like, honestly, these are our problems. I don't think Ferrari are going to do that. I want to say it makes sense that they would, but I don't think they will. I think we're going to see the exact same stuff over and over again until the end of the season. I think they're too proud to admit that these issues are Ferrari's fault.
Well, I mean, and let's look at these. Let's break these down a little bit, and like we won't go too much into it, but like the team orders thing, your man was, and if I pronounce that wrong, I don't care. Win something Ferrari, and then I'll pronounce things better.
Yeah.
But he was interviewed, and he's been interviewed a few times, but he was interviewed recently, and their stance was still in the interview, in his response, the stance was still, about team orders and will they employ team orders or prioritize a driver?
Yeah.
And his answer was still the same. The answer was, and this is a quote, Ferrari comes first. And I just think that's such a naive way of looking at it. That it's not black and white. So like, and he also said that basically that it appears that he says that it appears this is discussed more outside Ferrari than inside Ferrari. And I'm thinking, well, maybe it should be discussed more inside Ferrari, and then you'll realize what we're all seeing from the outside.
Yeah.
So, I mean, surely this is a reckless approach. I mean, they've got to realize that having 2 drivers fighting each other is either helping, say Verstappen, disappear into the distance, or whoever's behind gain Perez or whoever will gain up on them or catch up on them, or worse again, that it ends up causing a double DNF. They end up wiping each other out of a race, and now you're really snookered.
Yeah.
So I mean, surely, what's your thoughts on it? It's a bad, like, do you think it's a bad decision, or do you think they're just gonna have to stick to the game plan?
Oh, of course it's a bad decision. We've seen it already. It's time after time again this season. We've said it podcast after podcast. It's a terrible decision. They need to nail their colors to the wall and say one or the other. I'm not going to say I'm not Ferrari, so I can't tell you who you should decide. And I think it should be Leclerc. I don't have as much trust in Sainz as I would Leclerc. I think Leclerc is just a little bit more of a polished driver than Sainz. I think Sainz kind of loses the head the odd time, and loses his composure a little bit more than I know we've seen that from Leclerc in recent times. But anyway, yes, absolutely, it's a bad decision. You should be picking one driver and going, this is what the team is doing, and just man up a little bit. They're proud in other areas to say Ferrari is not at fault for this or that and the other. They should be big enough to then stand up and go, this is the driver we're picking. This is our team decision. Now you two need to live with that and work with the team.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with selecting, going into a season or going into the second half of a season with a number 1 and number 2 driver. And if the number 2 driver outperforms the number 1 driver on track, well, then you can always shift your strategy or your game plan mid-season.
Yeah.
But to go in with just the Ferrari comes first attitude is just utter nonsense.
Yeah.
And I mean, you sort of answered my next question, which I was going to ask you whether, who would you, if they did select and prioritize a driver, who would you reckon they should go for?
Yeah.
But I mean, they're sort of saying that they're not going to prioritize a driver based on the mathematics of the title race. So basically, they're not going to pick someone based on how the mathematical chance they have of winning the driver's title. Which again is just it's just bonkers. Like, that's exactly why you pick your priority driver. But I mean, and again, Carlos Sainz is only 22 points behind Leclerc, and look, that's one of a number of problems. I mean, we've got the race strategy as well, unable to listen to the driver's feedback. I mean, at the first half of the season, they were bullied into changing their race strategy on the fly, making incorrect decisions, making knee-jerk reactions on the track without listening to the feedback from the drivers that would maybe help them make that knee-jerk reaction a little bit more informed.
Yeah.
So do you think there's a couple of questions here. Do you think there'll be a confidence issue? Yeah, this one's probably a bit of a better question. Do you think there's a confidence issue that could come in with the drivers? And I know they're professional drivers, but if you're out there racing, you're giving it everything. Could there be a niggle in the back of their mind kind of going, okay, they won't listen to me when I tell them that this set of tires is the correct tire to be on, or hard, soft compound, whatever is the correct tire to be on. And I could come into a pit stop and they could make an absolute mess of it, or they could make the wrong strategy call. So do you think there's a bit of it could be a confidence issue with the team, or not with the team, sorry, with the drivers towards the team?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. How can you honestly go out, and we see it with Sainz taking on Verstappen and
battling with Perez.
Was it Perez?
It was Perez. Yeah, he was in the process.
Right.
Sorry, you're talking about when Sainz was in the process of overtaking Perez.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
And they're talking to him in the middle of that overtake. Absolutely bonkers.
Read the room, lads. Read the room. But of course, that's going to go straight into your psyche when you're sitting in that car. It's like, okay, I have to perform to the best of my ability today, the tip top of my ability, hope that the car is in the right shape. I'm always going to be allowing for this 10% drop in performance because of these clowns on the pit wall. Yeah. So that's going to be in the back of your head. Whereas Verstappen gets to, there has been the odd little call here and there from Red Bull, but Verstappen can be confident enough in the fact that he has a team that has his back, that will understand that he understands what's going on in the car a lot better than they do, and will listen to what he has to say.
And there's 100%, like that's it. He knows. He's out there on track. He can feel how the car is behaving on a set of tires. He knows whether these tires can go another 10, 15 laps, or they're on their way out. And he knows, okay, we're more comfortable on this medium. The hard is not going to work for us. You know, listen to your drivers. And do you think this is there a, like, what's the issue that's coming in here? Like, is it a case of a disconnect between the team, you know, just a disconnect within the pit wall crew, or is there more like an ego issue going on here, where you've got a big swinging dick on the pit wall who just wants to make up, you know, he's just like, I'm the guy, this is my job, I'm the one that gets hired to make the ultimate call at the end of the day. I'm trying to earn my paycheck by proving my worth. And there's a bit of an ego issue there. I hope that's not the case, but something's wrong. It's either a disconnect, it's an ego issue, or I don't know. I don't have a third point to make out on that one, but it's got to be something like that.
Yeah, I feel if that was the case, we would have heard some sort of reports from inside. Someone would have heard about something from inside Ferrari, that there's an issue here with someone. Like, instantly we heard between Otmar and Alonso when the news that Alonso was moving, instantly the news came out that there was issues between the two of them.
But let me just cut across you there. We did hear, though, earlier in the season when shocking decisions were being made, that there was a disconnect in Ferrari, that it was an unhappy camp. Do you remember? And I wonder, was that because, you know, sort of the drivers were coming back in, giving out to people who weren't taking direction or taking the feedback. You know, that there was a reason that story leaked. Now they had to come out. Do you remember it was a week or so later they came out then and said, "Oh no, I don't know where this story's coming from. You know, we're all happy. You know, everything's roses here." I don't know. I think there's some truth in that. I think there's look, maybe it's not an ego issue, or maybe it's just a disconnect or something like that in the team. But there's something going on there.
Either way, we can clearly see that there's no title in Ferrari's future if things continue the way they are. They need to sort something out. There's something seriously wrong there.
And you're right, there is no title in the future. And does that come down to, you know, surely Mattia Binotto has to shoulder this responsibility? I mean, I would imagine what worries me is the language that's coming out from him. Now, I understand you're not going to air your dirty laundry, but the language in his interviews sort of says that he is happy. They're all singing from the same page. All the the chief of racetrack director, of race operations. They're all singing from the same hymn sheet. They're all saying they're happy. There's nothing wrong here. So as the team principal, Mattia Binotto, surely he can see there's something wrong within the team for making these decisions. Like it can't be people that are bad at their job. They know what they're doing, but there's something else around that. So if he can't correct that, then he has to shoulder the responsibility for what's unfolding at the moment. And I can imagine the bosses in Ferrari higher up are looking at this kind of going, we've invested, you have a competitive car, you have competitive drivers, yet it's the internal workings of the team on the racetrack that's letting the side down. Okay, we'll let slide the 2 instances with Leclerc where he lost points off his own back. But largely, so could we see if Ferrari sort of don't put up if they don't correct this for the second half of the season, and the second half of the season continues on like the first half did, could we see Binotto maybe having to bow out or getting replaced by the end of at the end of the season?
I don't think there's any other choice, really. Anyone else with those resources doing as bad a job as Binotto is at the moment wouldn't get the chance. I think the fact that he's been there so long now is he's got a bit of grace. He's got a grace period there to work with. But I don't think he can. I think he should stand up and be like, this is, and other team bosses would stand up and be like, this is my error, and I'm going to sort this out. Whereas
he's doubling down.
He's just like, no, it's not my problem, and we don't have a problem. There seems to be very much a Ferrari versus the world sort of attitude where they close the doors and it's like, there's nothing wrong in here, there's nothing wrong.
And, nothing to see here,
they'll discuss it internally maybe, but nothing really gets sorted. And meanwhile, the rest of the world is left looking in at this disaster that they're denying is happening.
Yeah. Well, all right. Look, let's not, because like I said, we weren't intending to. Well, we were intending on a deep dive, but we're not doing it today. So, let's. I want to finish though on one point with Ferrari again, and let's hypothetically say that they do resolve their issues. Again, we're keeping reliability out of this. That can just crop up at any time. But say they do resolve the issues, strategy calls go smooth, pit stops go smooth. They listen to the feedback. Everything just clicks like a well-oiled machine now for the next 9 races. What's the best they can achieve now this season? Like with the points difference that's there, we've only got 9 races. And one other little thing I want to add to that is keeping in mind that Ferrari are now over their allocation for the large majority of power unit components. So anything they take from now on is going to be penalties. Red Bull are at their limit at the moment for the bulk of them, but are more reliable or showing to be more reliable. So we could see Ferrari having to take at least 1 or 2 penalties for the remainder of the 9 races. How big of those penalties will be, it's very likely though. So with that in mind, let's just say they're going to take 1 penalty of 10 grid place penalty. We'll just say, just for talk's sake. And they work as a well-oiled machine. What's the best we can hope for this season?
In the constructors?
Let's go with constructors first.
I think they're in real danger of being caught by Mercedes. I
think you're right. I think Mercedes are going to be bringing something that's going to step up again.
Yeah, they're on the charge, and they're a team on the up, and I think they're going to get it right. I was very down on Mercedes at the start of the season, but I have changed my view. I've recently bought a Mercedes t-shirt, but
oh Jesus!
I won't wear it out publicly though. I'll just wear it in bed.
I have a Ferrari one, and I won't even wear it to bed.
yeah. Don't put that on. I think they're in danger of being caught there in the constructors. I don't see it happen. I don't see it turning around, to be honest. And I feel the same way. If you look at the driver's title, Perez is on 173 points and Leclerc's on 178. I think they're looking at a 3 and possibly a 4 or 5 in the drivers, and I think they could slip down to third in the constructors.
I mean, when you look at how consistent Max is being since their early sort of reliability issues that they had, like where are you going to see in the next 9 races that Red Bull and more specifically Max Verstappen is going to drop that many points? I'm the same. I think we're both on the same page. I think, unfortunately, I think it's already the season's been written. I think it is a Max Verstappen second World Championship. So
and deserved as well.
Congratulations, Max Verstappen.
That's it. That's it. No more podcasts. That's the season over.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, look, I'm gonna call it there because this was a pretty this was a vamped podcast. It was unplanned in how it was delivered. So, but we wanted to. We did say we were going to deliver something for sort of a pre-race before Belgium. So we said we'd jump on here and get something put out there for you. But for now, though, that's it for this week's episode. But like I say, we'll be back, though, for the Belgium Grand Prix review in probably, 3 days, 4 days, something like that, whatever Sunday is from now. But don't forget as well, the races are coming thick and fast over the next 3 weeks, and we will be here with reviews after each and every one of them. Whether Isidro makes it or not, we'll be surprised as you are. But as always, though, get in touch with your own questions, comments, and corrections. Send them on to feedback@latenightRaceReview.com or anywhere you see us on social media. But until next week, guys.